I have been asked on more than one occasion, where do sermons come from? Usually I'm given some guidance by the lectionary, that systematic set of readings that takes us through the primary major stories and themes of the Bible. Sometimes a sermon grows out of a particular event that calls for attention and insight from Scripture. And sometimes the preacher just gets a wild idea and it grows into a sermon. This summer, I have planned a series of sermons that grow out of pastoral concerns that people have shared with me over 33 years of ministry. As I have served the people of 3 congregations and have been with them in the high moments and in the low moments of life, I have learned some lessons about life that seems to be necessarily shared. Maybe you'll hear something of a conversation that we have shared, or you'll hear something that you've wondered about, or maybe you'll just be as bored as always. But my hope is that you will find some ideas over the summer that are meaningful and will help make life a bit better and find a secret or two to life. This audacious series of sermons begins with a sermon about time. If there is one topic that seems to present itself again and again in ministry, it's the subject of time. Time is something of a human construct. We started with evening and morning, Yahi Ereb, Yahi Tobogar, To Yom, as the author of Genesis put it, evening, morning, day. Over time, we began to practice Sabbath, of marking every 7th day of rest and renewal. And then we noticed that the moon seemed to cycle from new to full, and we organized days into months. By 45 BC, Julius Caesar introduced his Julian calendar, organizing time into 12 months, though poor Julius thought that the year only had 355 days. The Gregorian calendar was created in 1582 when Pope Gregory reorganized the calendar into the form in which we have it today. Oh, there's much more that I could say, but you get the idea. Human beings created the way we think about time. It was the Babylonians who created hours and minutes and seconds. They use a counting system that was based in 60s, much as we have a system based on tens. An hour was 60 minutes, a minute was 60 seconds, and they did all of that without an Apple Watch. And so we arrived at where we are today. 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, 24 hours in a day, 7 days in a week, 30 days hath September, April, June, and November. All the rest have 31 except February alone, and that has 28 days clear and 29 in each leap year. But on a slightly more reflective level, time has become a form of currency. We value time. We value time over money. We will pay for someone else to use their time on our behalf so that we have time to do what we want to do. How many time-saving devices, products, and services do we employ every day of every week? The dishwasher was invented to save us time. The washing machine was invented to save us time. The microwave was invented to make bad food and save us time. Go online, place your order, and you can have everything delivered to your door, from food to books to appliances to who knows what else. You don't have to schedule a time to go to the store anymore, or to choose items, or to wait in line to pay. You can do it in the morning, the afternoon, the evening, or right in the middle of the night. We also value people who are involved with time over those who aren't. The busier a person is, the more we think them to be valuable and important. And the less busy a person is, the more we consider them lazy, shiftless, and not contributing to the greater good. There is, of course, some judgment involved in those distinctions, but we don't seem to mind. The poet, teacher, philosopher, author of Ecclesiastes keenly observed time and offered insights. The teacher looked at the world and saw that there was a certain reliable order to everything. To everything there is a season, and a time to every matter under heaven. The teacher saw this rhythm to life, birth and death, planting and harvesting, times for weeping, time for laughter, times for keeping, and times for throwing away. Nothing arbitrary, nothing erratic. To everything there is a season, and a time to every matter under heaven. The observation is not offered to consign us to a life of dreary inevitability. Fatalism is not the manner of life for which God created us. Far differently, the teacher is reminding us that time is not endless. Time exists, is real, and has its patterns and purposes. But above all that, the message of Ecclesiastes is that time, and that portion of time which we call a life, is hevel. Hevel is the Hebrew word used over 25 times in the book of Ecclesiastes that is often translated vanity. A better translation would be absurdity, meaninglessness, or vapor. Perhaps even better, we should translate the word fleeting or transitory. Our life, our time is brief. And once it is done, there's nothing we can do about it. Having constructed that argument, the teacher gives us something of an unexpected lesson. I know that there is nothing better for them than to be happy and enjoy themselves as long as they live. Moreover, it is God's gift that all should eat and drink and take pleasure in all their toil. The gift of life is meant to be enjoyed. Life is meant to be happy, joyful, even fulfilling. We are meant to have a sense of wholeness and contentment about life. And if that is true, if life is not that way, then we aren't doing it exactly right. Which means God gives us the gift of time in order for us to be happy, to experience a sense of achievement, to know for ourselves the very joy of life. What life becomes for each of us is in many ways up to each of us. We are responsible for finding the happiness, achievement, and joy that life is intended to offer. This is, dare I say it, the stewardship of life. I'll give it to you in this way. I have been there as people face the end of their life. I have been there more than I want to remember. But in all of those times, I have never once heard a person say, I wish I had worked a little harder and a little more. I wish I had taken more time away from my family and friends. I wish I would have watched a little more television. I wish I would have fought a little more with my family and friends. I wish I'd been a little more judgmental along the way. I wish I had spent some more time just standing idly by. Do you get it? The truth is exactly the opposite. What I have heard is, I wish I would have made more time for fun. I wish I would have been more present with my family. I wish I would have enjoyed the simple things a little more. I wish I would have been a better friend. I wish I would have made more of a difference. The truth is, I have heard more regrets about simple things that bring happiness, joy, and contentment from those facing the end of their time. I have heard regret over things that could have been. I cannot count the regrets I have heard that had to do with the misuse of time. The psalmist in the 90th Psalm gives us this goal. So teach us to number our days, that we may gain a wise heart. A wise heart is a heart in tune with God and the ways of God. It is a heart that understands life as a gift from God that is to be used wisely and well for God, for neighbor, and for ourselves. It is a heart that knows that life is fleeting and that none of us are promised tomorrow. It is a heart that beats in time with God's own heart, which is the source of all happiness, all joy, and all contentment. Too often I hear people speak of time as the enemy. That is to discredit the gift of time that God has given. One of the secrets of life is simply this: make friends with time. It is to remember that life is havel, fleeting and temporary, and using it to its fullest and fairest. It is to savor every moment of every day. One of my favorite books is Still Walden by Henry David Thoreau. The quote that always comes to my mind is this: I went to the woods to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life, and to see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived. I did not wish to live what was not life. Living is so dear. Nor did I wish to practice resignation unless it was quite necessary. I wanted to live deep and suck out all the marrow of life. To live so sturdily and Spartan-like as to put to rout all that was not light. To cut a broad swath, to shave close, to drive life into a corner and reduce it to its lowest terms. And not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived. Now, I'm not suggesting you need to go into the woods and build a tiny cabin and scratch out an existence like old Uncle Henry. But I am suggesting, in fact, I am inviting you to think about time, to make friends with time, and to practice a faithful stewardship of time. I am inviting you to gain a wise heart. I am encouraging you to suck out all the marrow of life and not, when you come to die, discover that you have not lived. God has gifted you this day. God has gifted you this life. God has gifted you blessing upon blessing upon blessing. What will you do with it all? To everything there is a season, and a time for every matter under heaven. Make friends with time, for now and evermore. Amen.